when I watched the fight back, something that was a little disappointing was the commentary and just kind of hearing the way that they were looking at the fight, and it made me feel like they didn't really know what was going on as much. Because anybody that I've talked to is that are people that I trust and know shoot straight with me, they're like, dude, you like shut that guy out. Domination. It was a flawless victory. And to hear things like, DC say, oh, he's not ready for Khamzat. And I think he was kind of trying to like be respectful, but also trying to like, I don't know, maybe like set me down a peg. It was just weird to hear. But I just feel like the people that I know that are in my corner who would give me honest, genuine feedback, they're very happy with the victory. I was very happy with the victory. And so that's what I really care about at the end of the day. But it was a little disappointing to hear some of those comments from people that I respect a lot.
Oh boy. Here we go, man. Bo Nickal, what the hell are you doing, man? What the hell is Bo Nickal doing? Listen, guys, following UFC 309, Bo Nickal goes out there against Paul Craig, and to a degree, I do think a lot of people are being maybe a little over kind of harsh when it comes to Bo Nickal. But I completely understand why the crowd is absolutely booing the shit out of this guy, right? This is a guy in Bo Nickal who has sat up there numerous times, said that he would destroy Khamzat Chimaev. He's talked, a big game for a guy that didn't have many fights in MMA period, comes into the UFC. He's got a big name. He's got, he's feeling confident, Mr. Penn State All-American. And, there's no question, Bo Nickal is one of the best, most prolific wrestlers collegiately coming into the UFC that we have ever had. This guy is absolutely burying himself before he can even get started. And it's I don't want to say it's sad to see, but it's crazy to see, right? Because I'm not the biggest Bo Nickal fan. I don't dislike the guy. I'm not a fan, but I'm just kind of neutral on it. And I just don't understand what Bo Nickal is doing. It's every time he does an interview, he goes out there, he puts on a shit performance against Cody Brundage at UFC 300. He's supposed to dominate that fight. He's supposed to dominate Cody Brundage. He's getting shucked off and tossed around by Cody Brundage earlier. Brundage is up there smiling and laughing at the camera. The crowd's cheering. It feels like no matter what Bo Nickal does, no one gives a shit. People are going to be mad regardless, but a lot of this comes from guys that want to defend Bo. He's out there talking so much shit, specifically about Boer's Khamzat Chimaev, which is where he had a lot of issues with Daniel Cormier and the commentary from UFC 309, which, yeah, the commentary is right. Khamzat Chimaev would destroy Bo Nickal. He'd probably beat him faster than he beat Robert Whittaker. Hell, he might even beat him faster than he beat Gerald Meerschaert. And if you think that I'm just being crazy by saying that, Khamzat's a damn good striker. Bo Nickal is not. He has almost no striking. He's so green on the feet. He was out there landing some decent shots on the moving heavy bag that is Paul Craig. Paul Craig is the easiest guy in middleweight/light heavyweight history to tag. Is he not? That's why the UFC gave him this matchup. This was a fed matchup to Bo Nickal to make him entertaining. They knew that Bo Nickal coming into this, it was going to be, I don't know if we should entertain the grappling against Paul Craig. He's got really good submissions, so we just got to be careful here. And he's slow and he's slow and stuck in the mud on the feet. The UFC knew. They're if we're going to make Bo entertaining, we're going to give him a main card spot. We're going to give him a slow poke at Paul Craig, who's there to be hit. And it just completely backfired. The UFC expected Bo Nickal to get a finish in this matchup. And then the problem that I have here with Bo is this guy has just been surrounded by, because to a degree, he has had what I mean by to a degree. But before I get to that thought, Bo Nickal, he has had an unbelievable career in collegiate wrestling. No one is denying that. No one's taking it away from Bo. And he has had a lot of people, because there's only been great things to say because of how great he's been in collegiate wrestling and wrestling only. This is fighting. This is mixed martial arts. And he's training at American Top Team. They damn near built a gym up in Pennsylvania just to have somewhere for Bo Nickal to train and these Penn State guys to go to. And he's just surrounded by a bunch of people that are telling him what he wants to hear. They are, and Bo Nickal's I got a lot of people around me that, they're going to be honest with me and they're going to say this. Are you sure about that, Bo? Are you? Because I'm going to be honest, the Cody Brundage performance, it was disappointing. Yes, you still got a submission. The Paul Craig performance, it was disappointing. And when you start mentioning Khamzat Chimaev, you start mentioning that I'm just going to steamroll everybody at 185, I'm a future champion, all these different things, the expectations are going to be high. You know why? Because when you're talking about, Boers all the time, that's a guy that's going out there and dominating everybody, right? He had some close fights with top-ranked dudes in the welterweight division, and, Gilbert Burns, and I know the Usman fight was at 185. That's what Khamzat's doing. Look at what he just did to Whitaker. You want to mention his name and you kind of want to, go that route. Look at what he's doing. That's where Bo Nickal went wrong with this, was bringing up Khamzat Chimaev, bringing up these other names, saying he's going to do this and do that. And I understand being confident and wanting people to tune in, because at the end of the day, we could sit up here and say, well, Bo shouldn't talk so much shit because he's going out there and not backing up the performances. There's a lot of other fighters out there that talk crazy and don't go in there and back up performances, right? Sean Strickland's like, we're going to go to war, and he goes out there and jabs and, teeps for 25 minutes. Then we have Colby Covington. I'm going to set the arena on fire, and he goes out there and hugs somebody for 25 minutes. We have and Conor McGregor, I'm going to put him in a stretcher and do all this, and then he's the one getting taken out in a stretcher. We've seen numerous fighters overpromise and not deliver. And what happens when you do that? You piss people the hell off. The difference with those fighters, they're established. Whether you like them or not, Conor McGregor's established. Colby Covington's established. Sean Strickland's established. And I bring those names up because those are the ones that everybody talks about as they're over, or Izzy at times. When Izzy is even like, I'm going to, start this guy and I'll go in there and jab and leg kick for 25 minutes. Whether you like these guys or not, these are the facts. They do over deliver. But the thing is, they've built themselves up before they start talking so much. And that's what Bo Nickal has done. He had a huge platform coming into this. It's very rare that we see somebody with the high-level wrestling credentials that Bo had coming over to MMA. Expectations are going to be high. He had a couple fights, goes on to the Contender Series, finished someone so fast, they bring him back just to get another fucking fight. And then now he's in the UFC, and it's like, well, what do we do here? We're giving him matchups that we can give him just to build this guy, but his name's so big and the expectations are high. And you know why they're high? Because the UFC is causing that. The UFC's causing that. The fans, what are our expectations for Bo Nickal? They're what Bo and the UFC expect or set for us, right? And I think that's the big problem here when it comes to Bo and the UFC. So my point, guys, Bo Nickal is a talented wrestler. There's no question about that. No one is denying that. And yes, he does have good power in his hands. And we have seen a little bit of improvements in the striking. It's going to take him time because he's very green. Who I blame here is Bo Nickal to a degree because he makes a million excuses. He goes on the microphone and is basically arguing with the fans. I know that it's not a back and forth conversation, but you're getting booed in America with Donald Trump in attendance. You got booed, Bo. Big time, by everyone. Boo. Raining down, overrated, chants all throughout the crowd. That's a horrible look. Could you imagine if a top Brazilian prospect like Mauricio Rufy or Carlos Prates is over in Brazil and they put on a stinker and they get booed or called overrated? I mean, I don't even think that would happen, but I'm just saying that's the magnitude of this. You're in America and you're getting booed. That's terrible. It's horrible. There's no sugarcoating this. This is not good for Bo Nickal at all. This is a disaster. And yes, this is a little bit on him. Then he goes on these interviews. Oh, the commentary team. I would have liked to have heard. What would you like to hear? They're calling what they see out there. At times they're biased. Hell, I think they give Bo Nickal the benefit of the doubt because the UFC is just they're forcing the Kool-Aid down your throat. They did this with Sean O'Malley, and I keep telling you guys, the fan base, we have to reject it. Reject the Kool-Aid. Bo Nickal's not that guy. He isn't. Sean O'Malley's not that guy. At least Sean O'Malley's entertaining to watch, though. He's got very good striking, but he's got the personality of a wet mop, where Bo Nickal kind of he's got a dry personality, but I think he's trying. But fighting style-wise, it's not very exciting. And it was early on because he was finishing everybody with submissions. He was finishing people. But we haven't seen the improvements in the striking, and I think the expectations are high because the UFC puts you in a main card opportunity again. That's the issue here. If the UFC was throwing him on the prelims, I don't think anyone bats an eye. They're not batting an eye. But you got people paying for pay-per-views. You got people buying tickets because they're like, oh, the main card, we got John Jones, we got Stipe, we got, Oliveira Chandler. And before that, we get Bo Nickal out there, against Paul Craig, and we're expecting Bo Nickal to go in there and dominate because he's taken up a main card spot, and it goes out there and it's a stinker. It is. That's the problem here. Bo Nickal and the UFC are ruining Bo right now. And there's a lot of time to correct this, right? This isn't like I'm coming on here and being like, this is the end of Bo Nickal. This is the end. This is it. No. But they need to do some rerouting here. I'd like to see Bo go off the grid just for a little bit here. I'd like to see the UFC pull back on the Bo Nickal promotion. Stop putting him on goddamn main cards. If you're going to put him on a main card, make it on a fight night. He's not a pay-per-view draw. His social media numbers are not that great. Like, Bo Nickal is a talented athlete. There's no question. I'm not taking it away from him. But this guy, like the hype here, all this BS, and then the doing the interviews and being like, well, John Jones and all these guys went to decisions. They're going to decisions with guys in title fights, or number one contender fights, or title elimination fights, or top-ranked guys in the division, not with fucking Paul Craig, a dude who's basically a moving heavy bag. And outside of Hail Mary submissions against, Jamal Hill and Magomed Ankalaev, which they were great submissions, he's a very tricky guy on the ground. He's a stationary target on the feet. He's easy to tee off on. Everyone beats the shit out of Paul Craig on the feet. So you doing that, what's special there? And he's like, oh, well, everyone's telling me I did such a great job around me. Of course they are. Of course they are. The UFC's pushing you. The UFC's not going to be honest with you per se either, right? The fans will. The fans will, right? We see the UFC push narratives. We see them push a load of BS. And it's on the fan base to reject the Bo Nickal Kool-Aid until further notice. We've been rejecting it, but you know what I mean. If Bo Nickal can go out there, if he can start backing up these performances, because make no mistake about it, this was a devastating blow to Bo Nickal. Absolutely devastating. It was. Because this was something where I think the UFC thought that he was going to get a KO on the feet. Because we know the UFC's like, the grappling, it's boring. We want to push the kickboxing, the striking, or the entertaining grappling like a Chimaev. But Bo didn't go in there to grapple at all. I think he should have tried at least a little bit. Maybe he could have found a submission or some nasty ground and pound on Paul Craig, but it was on the feet. And I think the UFC was like, we'll give him a matchup. He should be able to tee off on Craig. Maybe he can get a KO. And he didn't. So this is a disaster. This is something that Bo Nickal and the UFC are going to have to figure out, because when he goes on Ariel Helwani, goes in there in the octagon after, he's getting booed and he's making all these excuses and saying, I didn't like what I was hearing. You're not going to like what everyone has to say. Hell, I'm making this video. I'm not the fighter in there. But, in the media world, this is what happens. We're going to critique and we're going to call out what we see. And this is what we see. We see a guy that's being forced down their throats by the UFC for whatever reason. You're not backing it up now. You are in the lion's den, Bo. These aren't these questionable prospects. You are facing established fighters in the UFC from now on. And with a win over Paul Craig, stop putting Bo Nickal on a main card. Unless it's on a UFC fight night or something that's, on ESPN or ESPN Plus, available to everybody. Don't fucking put him on a main card ever again. Until further notice, at least. That's the problem here. This is on the UFC/Bo. Bo needs to stop making excuses. Just be like, I went in there, I did my best, that's what it was. Plenty of room for me to improve, I'm still green in the game. That's all he has to say. Not, this guy went to decisions and blah. Don't compare yourself to John Jones and these other guys. Not right now. I kind of get I get what he's saying to a degree. Like, I get it. And if I want to fight and I thought I did well and everyone's telling me I did well and I'm getting booed in my own country, that stings, right? That does sting. So I get it. Don't go on Ariel Helwani and say, they're comparing. They're just being honest. Could you imagine if Khamzat fought Bo right now? It'd be a massacre. It'd be the end of Bo Nickal. He'd get KO'd or submitted. In MMA grappling, Khamzat Chimaev destroys him. He does. Bo's only chance would be straight up wrestling, which I think Chimaev still does well. The comparisons to Chimaev are because of you, Bo. They are. That's why the comparisons are there. Don't compare yourself to other people at this particular time. Because look how that's going. The expectations are high. The UFC is putting you on main cards, taking the place of other fighters that should be on the main card. I'm glad because it's like not on the pay-per-view portion, so it's available basically to everybody. Marcus McGee versus Jonathan Martinez, way more deserving to be on the main card than Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig this past weekend. Way more deserving. I hate seeing this. I hate seeing young prospects come in, especially a guy with the background that Bo has. He had a name coming into this. The UFC's trying to force him down our throats. It's backfiring. It's backfiring big time. Bo just needs to stop with the interview bullshit, the whining and complaining and this and that. It's like commentary is just going to be honest. What do you want DC to be like? he's ready for Chimaev. Give him to him next. That'll be the end of Bo's career. No one will take him serious after that. People are already kind of like not taking him serious right now, but at least he's winning. He's still winning, right? And there's a lot of time left for Bo here, right? He's still young. He can improve. He's at a very good camp, at American Top Team. This isn't the end of Bo Nickal. Like, this isn't like I'm writing him off here. They just need to pull it back. They need to pull it back because this is absolutely a disaster. There's no question about it. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video. Let me know what you guys think here, man, because to me, the UFC and Bo are to blame. They are, and a majority of that is like the UFC because they're the ones that are picking the card placements, where he's fighting. It's a disaster. But if you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.